how they are harder for your body to digest. Notice I had to laugh at that. His reference, get this, his reference was a study on rice and how your body takes longer to digest rice, and so that you should chew it and it should go through the digestion process slow versus quickly, like a smoothie does. So I really couldn't see how rice related. And while there are some people that do make a very high glycemic index smoothie, smoothies are really good for you. And so tonight what we're going to do is we're going to talk about different kinds of ingredients for your smoothies and a ratio that will give you an optimal blend for nutrition. But I just want you to understand how important it is for you to flood your body with good nutrition. And very few of us get enough greens. Even if you eat salad, you're just not getting enough greens. So I had intended to do a couple of slides to give you some ratios, but what we'll do is after the webinar, when we send out the link, I will attach some slides so that you can get the ratios. So if you're taking notes, great. If you're not taking notes, that's fine too, because I'm going to give you some basic recipes. So for me, you all know how big my family is. For me, I fill up the Vitamix all the way to the top with greens, and then I kind of stuff them down. So that's 8 cups of greens, and then I put in 3 to 4 cups of fruit. The recipe that this doctor referenced was 1 cup of spinach and 3.5 cups of fruit. That's going to cause a little bit of an insulin spike. So there also was no protein added and no fat added. So if you want to get the most out of consuming a smoothie, you're going to add some other things besides just fruit and greens. I mentioned that there's some magical vegetables that you can add that don't add flavor. The most common one people use is baby spinach. You can put spinach in anything and you really don't taste it. Now, it's not like if you put spinach in something you cook. It definitely adds to the flavor. But when you're putting it in a smoothie, all it does is add color. You really don't taste it. So spinach is, for a newbie, spinach is the best green to start with. It's a good idea to alternate your greens. I use a green blend that has kale and chard, and it also has some carrots in it. Carrots is another magical vegetable. You can add it in. It's got a little bit higher of a glycemic index, so you have to think about that and count it as a fruit. But you can add carrots in. You get lots of vitamins from that as well. But I will talk to you a little bit about some of the ingredients I use and why. And then what we're going to do is we're going to make a smoothie for you. Now, I have to tell you this too. I'm not a recipe follower. Recipes are really just guidelines. So I will give you recipes, but I'm going to tell you I dump. And when I make it, you'll see me dump. That's just the way I do. So we know we're going to put greens in the smoothie. And you know you're going to have more greens than fruit. That is a given. You should really have twice as much greens as fruit, cup-wise, right? Because one thing is your greens are not taking up as much density as your fruit, so you're really kind of getting half and half. Even if you've got 3 cups of spinach and 1.5 cups of fruit, if you stuff and cram that spinach down in a cup, then you could fit a lot more. Now, for those of you who follow Dory, you know she does green ice cubes. And green ice cubes is basically pre-blending your greens and then freezing them in muffin tins. And if you want to do that, that's fine. For me, that's one more blender that I have to wash. I just freeze my greens, and I'll show you when I get the tub out. It's in the freezer now. I freeze them. They're a little bit brittle, but they don't stick together. They're loose. You just shove them in, and you actually get more than you would if you were using them fresh. I keep my fruit in the freezer for the most part. I don't know what you can see here on the table, so I'm going to pick this up. Pomegranate is a great fruit to add in when pomegranate is in season. It is so good for your heart, and it's a pain. It is a pain to get the seeds out. If you're not familiar with pomegranate, this is what a pomegranate looks like. This one's kind of dried out. It's been sitting in my windowsill for a while. But you slice around the edges, and I'm not going to do it because it's messy. I did bring gloves. I thought about it, but I decided I didn't want to go through the mess, and I didn't want to take the time. But you slice around just barely through the edge, and then you cut, I usually cut about 5 little slices in it, and it'll peel back and the seeds will come out. I use gloves because if you don't, it'll turn your fingers gray. So when I do my pomegranates, I'll buy them while they're in season. I'll buy them when they're on sale, bring them home, get my gloves out. Then I put them in little bags like this. This is 1 pomegranate, and I usually use half a pomegranate for a smoothie. If you use more than that, you're going to taste some of the little seed bits in there, but half a pomegranate will grind up really well, especially if you have a Vitamix or a Blendtec. Another thing that's really good for your heart and for your liver is avocado. Now, avocado is something that I don't really care for the texture of plain, but I love it in a smoothie. Some people like it plain and don't care for it in a smoothie. What it does for a smoothie is it makes it almost like ice cream. It makes it really creamy and it gets a little bit thick. But another reason that you want to add avocado is it adds fat, and fat is important. I don't have avocado with me tonight. Tonight what I have is coconut oil, and when I make a smoothie, I'm going to add about 2 tablespoons of coconut oil or half an avocado to the smoothie. We also, you'll hear us talk about boosters. This is my booster. It's actually just an old honey jar that I didn't even get the sticker off of. But I mix it all up, pre-mix it, and put it in the freezer. Inside this booster, I have, and I brought some of the bags so you can see the brands that I use, but I have chia seed, flaxseed, maca, and dulse. Sometimes I'll put hemp in there. It's not in there right now, but those are some of the things that you'll use for boosters. And why do we do that? Well, chia seeds are high in protein, have lots of good antioxidants in them. Flaxseed got lots of your omega fats in it, and it also has a little bit of protein in it. Hemp. Okay, so I'm going to ask for Nikki's sake. She says that some people can't hear. So if I'm not projecting well enough, I'll see if that helps. Can you hear me now? I'll be the little Verizon person. Can you hear me now? Is that working better? And I can't see the feedback in the chat. So Nikki, Ed, are you seeing feedback over in the chat where nobody can hear me?
No, there's nothing.
Okay, you can't see the chat piece.
Well, I mean, I see. Should this list be here? I mean,
yeah. So can we get a little bit of a response, yes or no, from folks if you can hear me or not? I know Nikki's saying she has a little bit of lag on the video, and that's just going to be ISP speed.
Okay, so we have Melissa, Lorena, Dimitri, Cynthia.
Are we getting yes or no?
There's 0 comments.
Is it clicked on chat?
See email. No,
Now I have to look at myself. I don't want to look at myself. Okay, so Nikki says she's seeing yeses. She's got some technical difficulties on her end too. She usually runs the chat piece of it for me, so y'all just bear with us. So I'll share with you a little bit about some of the boosters. Maca powder is something that I was introduced to when I was trying to balance my thyroid, get my thyroid working properly. And my endocrine system is something that stays a little bit out of whack. It's just something that runs in my family. And maca is really good for the endocrine system. And I'll tell you, 15 years of doing nutrition, 6 years of doing Zija, and of course I've had some issues, right? It hasn't all just been, life's good. I've had 2 babies in my 40s, and I had a miscarriage where I almost died. But I've been struggling with my adrenals pretty much all my adult life. I've not slept well all my adult life, and I've had other symptoms of adrenal fatigue. And it was not until I started doing green smoothies last year consistently and using maca every day that I started getting results. Another huge thing for me was hair loss after my miscarriage. I had a ton of hair loss, and it wasn't coming back. So I was getting, my hair was getting thinner and thinner. And literally, if I go 3 or 4 days without a smoothie because I'm out of town and I don't have my maca with me, my hair starts falling out again. So if you have some endocrine system imbalances, maca, and it doesn't have to be this brand, but I would recommend that you get something organic and check the origin of it, because you might end up getting something from China. Maca is one that's really good. Another one, everybody's heard how good kelp is for you. Dulse flakes, and you want flakes, not leaves. Trust me, been there, done that, I know. Leaves are like leather. You can't tear them. If you don't have a Vitamix, there's not a blender that would cut it up. But Dulse flakes are about 10 times more iodine rich than kelp. And so that's really good support for your thyroid too. So Dulse is something that I forgot to mention that is in my booster. Another good booster, if you like chocolate, cacao nibs. That's not like putting a bar of chocolate in there. You could chew on these if you want to, and a lot of people do in the countries where they grow them. They're a little bit bitter, but they do have a chocolate flavor, and this is as raw gets when it comes to real chocolate. These are the little chunks of the cacao beans, the cacao nibs. High in antioxidants, great to add flavor. Another thing, sometimes people will mix up their smoothie and find that it needs a little bit of a sweetener. I don't recommend sugar, of course. Don't add sugar. You might add a little bit of stevia. Stevia is okay, but another great thing you can add in is dates. Dates are naturally sweet. They have lots of nutrients in them, and they really will give you the sweet flavor. If you've ever seen my apple pie recipe, that actually it's not mine, it's Sally's, but that apple pie recipe calls for dates to add in a little bit of sweetness because you're putting tart apples in it. So if you're going to use stevia, you want to use stevia that is an extract, not in a powder form. Just to give you a little taste of why you might choose not to use a powder form. Most of them are not just stevia. They'll have another sweetener in there. Sweeteners that the jury's still out on. But here's a good example. Truvia stevia is not just stevia. It has some added sugar alcohols, but it is made by the Coca-Cola Company in China. So you just decide if Truvia is something that you want to use. Sweet Leaf is a good brand. There's several different brands, but if you're getting an extract, it's truly the extract, and it doesn't have that bitter aftertaste that you often get from a powder form. So I don't know, and this is going to be a question I'm going to ask so we can get some feedback on the chat. I don't know how many of you are already familiar with Zija. I have a feeling there's a lot of people in the room that already are familiar with Zija and with moringa. But just for those of you who are not, moringa is the most nutrient-dense plant on the earth that we know of. It has over 92 different nutrients in it. I mix this up and drink it every morning, not just for the nutrition, but it also has 36 anti-inflammatories in it, and I have chronic inflammatory issues. So this is what keeps me going at 48, where I can keep up with my teenagers and all my kids and all that I do. And there are times that I will add it to my smoothie. It's not necessary that you put it in your smoothie, but if you're wanting to flood your body with good nutrition and you don't have time to mix up your moringa and mix up your green smoothie, then this is a good thing. You just dump it in. Now, for those who have been around long enough to have ever heard Russ on the road talk about never mix it with anything but water, it will make it less potent. His concern was really mixing it with foods that were not foods. When you're making a green smoothie, everything that's going in it, hopefully, if you're making it the right way, everything that's going in it is real food. And so when you're taking moringa and adding it to it, it's not going to lessen its effect. If you're adding an energy drink to it, if you're adding the XM Plus to it, it will lessen the effect because it takes you longer to get it into your bloodstream when it's all mixed up in a green smoothie. So 1 packet for a 32-ounce smoothie, 2 packets for a 64-ounce smoothie is usually what I do. I also use our protein powder. Why do I use Zeja's protein powder? Why do I not use another protein powder? Because it's only got 5 ingredients, and they're all food, and you know what you're putting in your body. So this also has a sweetening effect to your smoothie. Generally, and everybody's different, generally when I'm making a fruit-based green smoothie, I'm adding fruit to the greens, I'm going to use vanilla. It affects the flavor less. Some people like to do chocolate with their fruit, and that's fine.
Chat is there. I didn't have chat, so there's plenty
You
of
found chat, and now you can see, and everybody can hear, and we're all good.
But no, it's still
We're still having some
getting
issues.
worse, not better with the cutouts. I don't know how long ago that was.
And that may just be because we're on my pathetically slow computer.
Chris, love my Zija. John, I've added super mix to my MX14. I do super mix every day.
So another one that I will do is I'll make a green smoothie with our chocolate protein, and when I do that, I'll mix in a nut butter. So I opt for almond. You can use cashew. Peanut butter, not so much. It was one of those things that was hard for me to give up, but peanuts are inflammatory, and I grow in the land where peanuts grow. I live in the land where peanuts grow. And trust me, the ground that they grow in is full of chemicals. And so when you're thinking about peanuts, just think about they grow in the same soil that they grow soybeans in, and I would say those are Roundup Ready soybeans because that's all anybody grows anymore. They grow in the same soil that cotton grows in. They grow in the same soil that Roundup Ready corn grows in. So that might not be your best option. Choose a different nut butter. When I make the chocolate almond, I might throw in a banana for some sweetness. Sometimes I like to add in peppermint. So a lot of people like to add oils to their smoothies or their drinks for flavor. And I'm going to suggest that if you do that, know what that oil is doing inside your body. They're good things that they do, but sometimes you can, with essential oils, more is not always better. Peppermint has a lot of detoxification benefits. It also helps with digestion, so it's a great oil to use. Just know what you're putting in your body and what it's going to do. Another oil that is great for digestion, orange oil, and that adds a nice flavor. This is another thing to note about essential oils. If you're going to do essential oils, you want to use glass, not plastic, because the oils will degrade the plastic, and will the toxins from the plastic will leach into your drink. So I have 2 different kinds of tops here, just a regular size and a wide mouth. You can pick these up at any grocery store or department store. In the canning section is usually where you'll find them. And sometimes you can find the jars and the lids all together, and they're really cute, and they have cute little sayings on them. But if you're going to use oils in your smoothies, you definitely want to do that. Okay, so I'm going to let you guys put some questions in the chat box that I can get some feedback. Ed can read those to me now. And I'm going to go ahead and start mixing up the smoothie. And the smoothie that I'm going to make tonight, and I guess I'll address this first, I'm going to use water. Now, it just depends on what you like. Do you like something thick and creamy like ice cream? Then you'd want to use a milk base. Not cow dairy. Cow dairy's bad for you. It's homogenized, it's pasteurized, and it's got all those growth hormones in it. Cow dairy is just something I would totally avoid unless you have access to next door Jersey type cows where you know the farmer and you know what they're feeding them. We have dairy goats, and I use raw dairy goat milk, which is great, but this time of the year our goats are not producing, and so I'll opt for almond or cashew. But tonight we're going to do water, because water gives you a really pretty, nice green smoothie, and it's thinner, and some people prefer thinner. So we get out our goodies. And I'm going to attempt to make half of a pitcher full. I'm not good at this because I always make a whole one. And you may lose volume a little bit. I'm going to try to speak a little bit louder, but give me a second and we'll get it all back together. Actually, I'm not going to attempt to do half. I'm just going to take it home and we'll have it for breakfast. You start with your liquid base, and see if I can figure out how to make this. I think I'll just tape the top all the way off and I don't have to worry about how it works. And then I'm going to put, I usually put about 3, for the whole, now this is the whole blender, right? This is 64 ounces. I usually put about 3 to 4 cups, and I need to turn this so I can see it. And I'll show you, this is what oils will do to plastic. So just be careful with your oils and your plastic. So we've got just about 3 cups of water. So that's what we're going to start with, and we may have to get out another water container here in just a second. Again, this is I just took that box, stuck it right in the freezer. My hands are clean, I washed them earlier. And you see how these are frozen and they're still really loose. So you can just take that. We go through a lot of this because I make at least 1 pitcher full every day. And this generally takes about 1/3 to 1/2 of this box. So my grocery cart when I go shopping is full of real food. And then I'll just fill it really full here. And now you're going to get really good volume. So you might want to turn it down when I turn on the Vitamix. If anybody has a Vitamix, they know how loud they are. So I've kind of pressed that down in there, but that's 8 cups of greens. And then once I get the greens in there, I'm going to turn it on.
Wow.
And just get them blended in a little bit. And then again, we're making 64 ounces here. It looks like I'm probably going to have to go back and get a little bit more water. I'm going to go ahead and put in half of this pomegranate since I went ahead and my kids love pomegranate. Then I'll put this in the freezer and have enough for another one. I'm going to put in, usually I'll put in 1 to 2 bananas. It depends on what other fruit I'm putting in. I'm going to put in, you can see they're just broken up. I buy them, I'm going to save money. You buy the ones that are brown in the bags for $1.49 at the grocery store. And then you just peel them and freeze them. And they break apart pretty well if you lay them out flat when you freeze them. My kids did this so they're a little bit more stuck together. But you lay them out flat and they're really easy to separate and pull out. And then this is 3 cups. So I'm twice as much greens as I am fruit. 8 cups of greens. I'm going to put this in there and that's going to give me about 4 cups of fruit. And I'll tell you, if this was all that went in it, you really would have a higher glycemic load. We're going to balance that by adding in the fat and adding in the protein. If you just think about the math that you did in, I don't know, 4th, 5th grade, I can't remember when they teach, how to find an average, the median and the mean. But the mean, the average, would be how you figure your glycemic load. So we get a lot of sugar in this, but we're going to add protein and we're going to add fat, and that's going to bring down the glycemic load. I don't like to blend in the protein and the fat right away because it causes it to get air bubbles in it. So I get this all blended up first.
Lorena says, would you recommend coconut water?
You could use coconut water. Just always be sure whatever you're using does not have sugar added, because a lot of those products do. So as long as it's not got stuff added to it, you can use coconut water or something. I use kombucha sometimes. I wouldn't use all kombucha, or you would have a volcano with your Vitamix, but you can add kefir. Kefir is really good. Some people put yogurt in there. I just try to avoid the cow dairy products as much as I can. So audio, you might want to mute it while I run through this because I'm not going to try to talk over it. It's probably going to be really loud here in a second. And I hate to use the tamper, but I might do it just to get us finished a little bit faster. This is really, really thick. I'm going to add a little bit more water to it. And the color is really not that pretty. What I really love to do is make a smoothie that's just got banana and mango in it because then it's a beautiful bright green, and we call that the green goddess smoothie. But when you add red things like strawberries, which were in this mixed fruit, or the pomegranate, that really makes the color a little off.
So Lorena asked, what brand or where do you get the Dulce flakes?
The brand that I use, and I'll hold it up again, and it doesn't necessarily have to be this particular brand. I'm just comfortable with it, and there goes the Maine Coast Sea Vegetables. I don't really put a whole lot of stock in USDA organic, but Dulce is something that can be harvested all over the world, and this is something that's harvested and they test for toxins and that sort of stuff. So there are other brands. Just the big thing I recommend is not to get the leaves. I'm one of those kind of people that I like the cheapest thing, but the best value. And so when I was looking, I saw some leaves and they were Norwegian, and I thought that's great. But when I got it, I literally couldn't tear the leaves with my hands. They were that tough. So unless you have a Vitamix, and my Vitamix did great with them, it's hard to measure half a teaspoon, right? Because you got this leaf, you just throw one in and hope it's about right.
Picture going in and out, can't see names on the package.
Okay.
We have the mirror function off. We're seeing everything backwards.
I don't know how that works.
Yeah, well, that works.
So I'll hold it up again and maybe just leave the camera still, and maybe, that might work. So can you see that?
Surely. Do you keep your booster in the freezer?
I do keep my booster in the freezer, and I keep all my extra stuff that's not mixed up in a booster in the freezer as well. I feel like it lasts longer that way. Okay, now I've added a little bit of water. I'm going to go ahead and add the booster, add my fat, and add my protein and finish it off. And by the time I'm done, it's going to be up to the top here. And Ed's going to get an opportunity to taste my smoothie and tell me what he thinks. So this is actually a half of a tablespoon. So again, I'm just kind of a dumper. I have a 2 tablespoon scoop somewhere that makes my life a whole lot easier, but I don't know, I couldn't find it when I was packing up to come do this.
JR just said no picture.
That would be JR. Sometimes people, because of their internet connection, will lose a picture. If the picture doesn't return, you might try going out and back in. And I look for all sorts of ways to use coconut oil. My family doesn't like for me to cook things with it. They don't like the added coconut flavor. But the added coconut flavor that you get in a smoothie just makes it taste better. Coconut oil is so good for your brain. And it has lots of other benefits as well. But everybody goes, and this was my fear in the beginning. Will it not blend it up, right? Will I have big chunks of coconut oil in my smoothie? Depends on your blender. If you have a high-speed blender, it'll pulverize anything. and it'll mix that in. So again, 1 to 2 tablespoons, and I would start with 1 tablespoon and work your way up to 2 tablespoons per smoothie. Remember, I'm doing 64 ounces here, so everything I'm doing is double. And then, because I'm mixing this up, this is literally breakfast for me, breakfast for my husband, lunch for my husband. I'm going to make this as if I were making a protein shake. I'm going to put 2 scoops per 32 ounces, or a total of 4 scoops. And you don't have to put that much in if you're making a smoothie and you just want to add 1 scoop, that's fine. If you want another source of protein, that's fine. But if you want the glycemic load not to send you into diabetic shock, you don't just do fruit and 1 cup of greens. You're going to do a protein in there, you're going to add a fat in there, because literally this is a meal. And I want you also to understand that contrary to what that doctor said about it being harder to digest, the enzymes have already been broken loose and they're already pre-digesting the food before it gets into your stomach. So there's nothing better for your body than smoothies. I'm not a fan of juicing, because that, when you're juicing, and we're going to have a really full blender here, when you're juicing, you're stripping all the fiber out, and you have no protein. All you have is the nutrients, and it's great that you've got a powerhouse of nutrients, but those do hit your organs really, really hard. And it's not better for your liver to juice, it's harder on your liver to juice, especially if you're dealing with a lot of toxins in a liver that's kind of sluggish. So, here we go, and hopefully we don't... Many of you saw the Vitamix blooper video. Hopefully we don't have it go overflowing the blender. I have had that happen. Take the lid off, because it's a seal. Take the lid off and it just all runs down the side, so hopefully I didn't do that this time.
Susan asks, booster in the fridge.
You could keep the booster in the fridge. I just keep it in the freezer because that's where my other stuff is, and it's just a great place to reach in and grab it. And if you're mixing up enough and you're using it fast enough, it doesn't even have to be in the refrigerator, but it just, to me, it seems like I'm protecting it better if I'm keeping it cold.
Right.
Okay, here we go. I was going to say, because it's so full, I won't let Ed taste it here, but like I said, I love my Vitamix. I hate the tamper, so I usually just take my time making my smoothie, and I don't have to use the tamper. But because I was trying to get it done fast tonight and get it all mixed up for you, I've used it. The problem with it is, what do you do with it now, right? You got to run with your hand cupped under it to the sink or whatever. So anyway, who wants to let Ed taste it and see what he thinks? I think I'm going to have to blend it a little bit more. Who thinks you need to see Ed's face? And Ed, who doesn't drink green smoothies, who wants to see Ed's face taste the green smoothie?
I don't know.
They can hear you, Ed.
I'm ready for anything.
Okay, hang on. I'm going to blend it up for just one more second so I can let Ed come over here and join me. He's been the man behind the curtain with the camera tonight, so... just try to watch the stuff that's at the top to make sure it gets sucked down in there and gets blended in good.
Jessica says, yum yum, Ed needs some.
Yes, Ed needs some.
John says, lick it off, Ed.
That's what you do with your tamper. Okay, so I'm going to take this over to the sink and then I'm going to pour up a smoothie. And this is another one of those things that could be your preference or not. My husband doesn't like a straw. I prefer a straw. So, Ed, you want to start with a little one? Is that what you want?
Baby one.
This is a little pint jar, which is great for kids. It's still 16 ounces, which is a lot. But it's great for little people.
Oh boy.
We have to come over here so that they can see your
Oh,
face.
I don't
when
want.
you
No,
taste
I don't
it.
want to do it. No.
So
See my face.
simultaneously, while we're doing this, Ed is videoing this in a higher, I don't even know what it's called, HD version or whatever, so that we can have a really good video of it. And he's watching me pour this thing all the way to the top, and he's going, I'm not sure I can handle this.
And I'm going to take one lick.
One lick. How about we do it with a straw?
Okay.
To me, it's easier to drink it faster with a straw.
Yum, 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 yum.
And you
yum,
don't
yum.
end up with a green mustache.
It's great. Yeah, I love it.
So you can drink that every day, can you? So it's great for people that maybe you've got kids that are picky. This is a great way to get greens in. Maybe you're picky or your husband's picky. This is a great way to get greens in. My husband thinks anything that's green is rabbit food. He's never been a salad eater. And he will wake me up in the morning before he leaves for work for me to make him a green smoothie. Not just because he likes it, but because he likes what it's done for his health. So again, in some of the comments that I made at the beginning, when I talked about Zija as a great foundation, I don't think you can get better nutrition than you'll get with a super mix or the smart mix.
The camera's too. I have to show my face.
Okay, come back. So you won't get better nutrition than this. But what you have to understand is just this alone is not going to correct your bad habits for the past ever how many years. And it's a great way to get in a good breakfast. It's the best meal of the day. You get all your nutrition in. But you got to be sure that you get your ratios in there. We've got about 20 plus grams of protein per smoothie. That offsets your glycemic load. We've got another 2 tablespoons of fat that we added in. And again, you can use other fats. When you use nut butter, you don't have to use coconut oil. And you can use nuts. If you're going to put nuts like almonds or walnuts or cashews, I would recommend soaking them for a couple hours first. I've been told if you soak them overnight, they get too soggy, so that might not be a good option. And I have a hard time with that because of my schedule. It's just hard for me to take the time to soak nuts for a couple hours. So just using nut butter. And I think that I've covered pretty much everything. Does anybody have any particular questions that I can answer? And Ed's going to read for me, so you may hear his voice in the background if folks have questions. And I'm going to sit back down.
No question.
There we go. So if anybody's got any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Hopefully you've gotten something out of our video webinar tonight, and you've learned a little bit more about green smoothies and how to make them healthy and to get your ratios right so that you're getting everything your body needs in a ratio that is perfect for digestion and blood sugar and that sort of stuff. Again, if you have blood sugar issues and you're finding that a green smoothie boosts your blood sugar, then you want to alter and reduce some of your fruit. I'll tell you a couple fruits that are great cover fruits. Bananas can cover a lot of different flavor. Pineapple is another really good cover fruit. So if you're trying to reduce the amount of fruit, you could do a pineapple and a banana, and that together would really help cover flavor. Some flavors that you'll never cover, adding in vegetables. This was one for me because you want it to taste good. If it doesn't taste good, you don't want to choke it down. I love celery. 1/2 of a stalk in 64 ounces, and it's an overwhelming flavor. You know there's celery in it. I won't say it's overwhelming, but you know it's got celery in it. Bell peppers, same thing. You can't cover the flavor of a bell pepper. And cucumbers, oddly enough. I've never been able to add cucumber and not still taste the cucumber. Some good complementary flavors to go with cucumber would be a little bit of lime, a little bit of mint, and cucumber is one of those things that you just have to decide if it's something you want to put in your smoothie, and you find a way. I will tell you this, if you're adding lime, you don't want to put more than 1/2 of one. And you can, with any of your citruses, of course you're gonna peel the rinds.
3 questions.
Okay, with citrus fruits, you're gonna peel the rinds off. A Vitamix, they tell you can just dump anything in there, and you can. But citrus, you're going to peel the rinds off. You can leave the whites on. The white outer part of the citrus has a lot of good nutrient value to it. But never put more than 1/2 a lime, or you will get too much sour and you won't be able to offset that flavor. Even though we have some technical issues with it from time to time, this app will it cost us to run it. So we have a webinar series that you can subscribe to. That means you get a year subscription to all our webinars. That's one option that we have. We also have our 12-week coaching program that we do. And in January, we're going to do something different. We're going to do a jump start. So we're going to do a 30-day jump start where we'll help everybody get off on the right foot, give you lots of information. It won't be like a coaching, but you'll get lots of information and education as far as how to move forward and make 2016 your best year ever. And for anybody that's on the webinar that is not already using Zija that would like more information, get back with the person that invited you, because I know there are some folks that are guests of other Zija distributors, so definitely get back with the person that invited you. But if it's something that you're interested in and you didn't have anybody that invited you, or you came to us through one of our web pages, we'd love to help you learn more about the Zija products as well. So thanks everybody for joining us, and I hope you have an awesome night and your green smoothie experience becomes a daily routine. Nikki, you can shut us down.
I guess that's it. That is excellent.